Do you want to live forever? What might a society look like with people that live to be 150, 200, or even 1,000 years old? What amazing feats could be accomplished? But also, what might go wrong? In this episode, we examine a few of these ideas with longevity expert Steve Ruby. Steve is the founder of Kaizen Medical and also the executive director. He holds a doctor in chiropractic degree from Palmer College of Chiropractic West in San Jose, California. He also happens to be a psychotherapist and is passionate about creating an environment where patients work with medical doctors and specialty practitioners to experience a fully integrated and customized health solution. He also happens to be a national speaker and educator on regeneration of the human body and enhancing mobility for optimal health. Also, don't forget you can subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/outofthecave. I have some really cool rewards set up that you can check out. One is where I'm going to write a story about this society coming to be, and you can be one of the characters in that story. That's going to be a whole podcast episode in and of itself that I'll probably do monthly for those who have donated. So be sure to go and check that out. Let's get into it now as we take our 11th step out of the cave with Steve Ruby. So, luckily you probably already get this, but I typically start out every podcast just to get people in the frame of mind of what we're going to discuss, because I found with most of the podcasts it's kind of gone... It will definitely go off topic, right? That's going to happen just because there's so many exciting things to talk about. There's, whatever, and I'll keep trying to bring us back. But just to get us in the frame of this, because we like to, we typically are, trained to think in the frame of what problems are we fixing in this society, and not how can we build an entirely new one, and like really almost anything is possible to create, right? So that's kind of what I like to set the frame for with what I'm about to go into, which is, let's imagine that we've purchased an island off the coast of Fiji. Our goal is to create an optimized society fresh from start, meaning we'll rethink the culture, economic structures, educational systems, governmental systems, and urban development landscape. So one of my hopes with this society is that it maintains a goal of a collective discovery, right? We're going towards just figuring out more about life, about what is, about what we're doing. What is this universe and why are we here, maybe, or what that comes to be. And I think that's really interesting. I think that's what should be humanity's ultimate goal. Sure. Right. And plugging that into our discussion, because you're an expert on longevity. How can longevity play into achieving that goal? How can we? How might us living longer, or living hundreds of years instead of 50, 60, 70? Yeah,
maybe 80 at best, right? Or 120.
Yeah.
I love when you and I first talked about doing this. To me, this is I got real excited about the subject of your podcast because actually, when you look at longevity. When you really start to dive into longevity, the way I've dove into it and tied into some of the world experts into longevity, what you find is, they call longevity, there's a few different names for it. First of all, let me kind of set the precedent. I mean, there are people who talk about immortality. I think immortality, the word itself, kind of freaks people out in a lot of ways. Or it's such a big concept. It's like, hey, think about the entire universe. Like, immortality, you're talking about forever. Yeah. It's you lose people just there because they start just grasping the idea of what that even means. It's like grasping the idea of the size of the universe.
Have you watched Doctor Who real quick?
The TV series? Yeah. Not recently, but I know it's been on for
whenever I think of that, though, I think of the head. That has pretty much is like the longest living being.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. That's what I always think of when I think of like immortality. Is like that head.
Right. So there's other words that people use. Longevity's become a real popular term, especially in the world of well, it's something that a lot of people are going for now, the
Mhm.
world of body hackers.
Mhm.
Online, you hear people talking about longevity.
Mhm.
I think the community that I'm involved with and the conferences that I go to, you will hear people talk about super longevity. Hey, let's take longevity and let's talk about it even a super long time. And you start getting the people, the Ray Kurzweils of the world, talking about not, really talking about the concept of immortality, but maybe, hey, we're looking at 200 years, 300 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. Just start inserting decimal points, right? Into that. And when you start talking about and really actually, first of all, I will say this about longevity and super longevity. These are things that are happening right now. And I'm sure we'll talk about this some in this, there is science and technology and research that's going into all of this right now. And it's most people are completely unaware of some of the things that are not just, hey, we're thinking about this is going to happen 5 or 10 years. Like this is happening now.
Yeah. I always tell people, man, I'll be like, yeah, well, I'm probably going to live to like 150.
Right.
And that's honestly like the lower estimate. Cause I know that even when I say that, they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm like, no, I mean, with the way science is progressing and the way things are going and like knowing my genetics and like the way my family lives really long. Like my dad's 86 right now and still doing well. My grandma lived till 90.
Right.
Chances are I'm lived to 150. Honestly, I think probably 200. As long as I don't get hit by a train or a random bullet.
Well, and there's the biological truth is there's no reason that occur.
Right.
There's no reason that you can't. Yes, there's problems that need to be solved.
Yeah.
But 150, it's not even a debatable science issue that's within the reason. You're capable of doing that.
Yeah.
So back to the podcast though, and we'll talk about those things as well too.
Yeah.
Which is when you start really actually realistically looking at super longevity, the truth of the matter is you can't really have super longevity, like some people call it like radical life extension, without really, in my opinion, having radical life expansion. And when you start talking about radical life expansion, you're really talking about the things that your podcast is all about. So when you and I first started talking about this, these are things, it's the same conversation in my opinion.
Sure.
I mean, you actually are looking at completely reframing your relationship with yourself, your relationship with culture, and then you get into everything because the truth of the matter is death is something that's always been there. And we live our life in really around the kind of this death culture. That's a reality for us. And when you start talking about the end of death or just living a super long time, nobody really wants that with the way things are. And nobody really wants to, I don't want to be 150 years old and be miserable. I don't want to live in a world that's miserable.
Right. Like, what's the point?
I don't, and I'm talking about that too, exactly. And I don't want to live in a decrepit body. So in my physical state, no, we're not talking about let's live super long and still decay and degenerate and suffer. But you need to have a change in mindset when you start thinking about, even you talking about living to be 150 years old, that requires you to start looking at a different mindset than you're going to have if you're thinking about, I'm going to be getting, the best years of my life are going to be probably till I'm about 60.
Yeah, totally.
And then, then I start my decline. And maybe I'm slowing down that decline as much as I can.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about when you talk about super longevity. It's not like let's plateau at 60 and maybe even stabilize this. It's let's start talking about healing, regenerating the body, being as good as we are at whatever our biological ideal state is. But with that, why would we stop at a biological ideal state? Let's create an environmental ideal state.
Exactly right.
And you get into and that involves everything. It really does involve everything. So when we talk about when I talk about these things, and because this is what I'm doing, my goal is first I want to get to 100, and then 150, and then so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, man.
So my mindset now is I'm already there. and what do I need to do first to kind of create that mindset in myself.
Yeah.
But then what do we do conversation with individuals like you and I, and then as a culture to start just creating the world the way that we want it.
Yeah. And that's all belief too, right? A lot of this comes down to belief. It's like, if you really believe that you're going to live to 100, then you probably will. Right.
Yeah. It's belief followed with action. I think belief's an interesting thing. You know, ultimately our actions are based more than anything on our beliefs.
Oh, of course.
Let me give you like an extreme example.
Yeah.
If we're sitting in this room right now, there's a door. If you believe, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Yeah. If you believe there's somebody outside this door waiting to shoot you as soon as you open this door and walk out of it, whether that's real or not real.
Yeah.
Okay. What's it going to take for me to get you to walk out that door? For you to take that action.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an extreme example, but you're not going to go out that door for anything. I'm going to have to put you in a chokehold.
Yeah.
Try to knock you out. You're probably going to knock me out because you really believe it.
Yeah.
And you have more confidence in the matter that this is now life and death for you.
For sure.
So your actions follow your beliefs. So our beliefs are a fundamental thing. But then for us to take the appropriate action.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That's a really good point. I think one of the things that people think about this super longevity conversation, or this, what does it look like for us to live forever, is, they just think like you're living in a cloud in La La Land. I'm not about the belief of it all. I'm about the actions that need to follow suit, and that's physical actions. What can I do right now?
Totally.
So 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when there's new technology and new things I'll be able to utilize for my body and for my mindset, so I get to that next level.
And I think
I get to the next level.
Didn't they I thought I just saw a thing that they just came out announcing that they've figured out how to reverse aging. Is that correct? Did you see that?
No, but I see headlines like that.
Yeah.
So,
and they didn't say like it's like done and we can do it right now, but they said they figured out the point that it can be reversed. They're like, there's still a lot that has to be figured out.
So here's let's say a couple things about this, because this is a good thing. When you're
100 too, you probably don't really want to be the wrinkly 100-year-old that can't move, if possible, right? You want to be.
I mean, how you feel. I'm 47 right now, and the truth of the matter is, with my mindset, I mean, to me, it's 47 trips around the sun.
Yeah,
like I don't associate with my age group.
In
that way. I don't associate, because culturally, we've always associated with, hey, you're in your 20s, this is how things are supposed to be like. Now you're in your 30s, things are supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
40s, 50s, you know, and again, right there, you start talking about super longevity. It's like, I got to break that mold for myself right now.
Yeah.
I look at, I'm on Facebook and I look at my peers that I went to high school with and whatever. And I'm like, you can just see, 90% of the people, they're just going with what's always been that cultural norm for somebody who's in their upper 40s, about to turn 50s. So I had to change my mindset about that right away, and not follow the actions that maybe a typical, 47. And we're doing these things unconsciously all the time. With that, I'm forgetting what your original question was that I got sidetracked on.
That's okay. I think I forgot too. I'm sorry.
That happens.
We were talking about the salt figuring out.
Aging. Yeah. So, first thing I will say to people is, if you really think about what is aging in the first place, and when you actually look at it in terms of, there's a number. It's not a simple question actually to answer. There's not one thing hey, you have this aging gene in your body, and there's a clock inside your body, and we just have to figure out, biologically how to turn that around. There's a number of things that people and scientists associate with aging. So, for example, I'll just name a few, like your telomere length. You might have heard of people talk about telomeres. Telomeres, as your cells, as we regenerate, our cells divide, and over time, your telomeres, which are get shorter and shorter each time your cells reverse. And when your telomeres get to a certain length, shortness, basically just things in your body start to decay and degenerate. On a cellular basis, your body's ability to regenerate cells goes down, and you start to end up with all these diseases and disease states that we associate with aging. If you've ever seen those, I can't pronounce the word, but those kids who are like they're 7 years old and they look like they're 90.
Progeria?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So
Yeah.
they have a disease of
Yeah.
their telomeres are shortened. So that's a biological issue.
Right.
Okay. Now there's actually animals in nature that don't age based on their telomere length. So we, again, biologically, scientifically, we know this is a problem that's solvable. They haven't solved it yet.
Right.
But what they do know for a fact is there is a solution to it.
Right.
And if there's a solution, it just means, it's a matter of time for our species to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, crack the code, right.
If you want to look at somebody who knows a lot about this, Dr. Bill Andrews is a guy you can look up. He's one of the leading researchers in the world in telomeres. He has a company, Sierra Science, that's doing a lot of the cutting edge research. They've done a lot of research in terms of slowing down telomere lengthening, and they know they can reverse it. Yeah, and it's like, where's the money so we can get to these things? Yeah, I mean, it's actually shocking how little money's put into this stuff.
And again, that's coming back to bring it back around to the original kind of insight and where I want to go with this is like, that's where I think everything should be going. It's like, we should be so much more focused on the sciences and discovery and figuring things like that out, right? Because I was listening earlier today to Neil deGrasse Tyson on Joe Rogan's podcast.
I was listening to that last night too.
Yeah, you did. Nice. You know what I'm talking about. And on that podcast, though, for those who haven't listened to it, Neil Tyson was talking a lot about how the sciences and like the military and industry all play together, and you need really these scientists to want to just look and discover the things they want to discover so we can have all these other things. Like, obviously, like physics, like people figuring things out in physics is what has made our computer, but also like I think one of the examples was the Hubble telescope, them looking out there. In order to for them to get to do that, they're like, okay, well, we'll also agree to work on telescopes looking down
spying,
at Earth.
Right?
Yeah, spying.
Basically.
Like, we'll make that, but you got to give us what we want.
Yes.
But I think it should be reversed, where we should all be working to help the scientists figure stuff out. Yeah. Because we'll get so much more cool stuff because they'll be able to figure things out.
Yeah, his point was, people look and say, like, why are we wasting our money on, let's just say NASA and looking out into space? And his point was, we don't realize how this technology comes around and benefits us all. Totally. And he was talking about the example there is all this technology and money that we spent towards NASA, towards the military, and all this technology. That's what we use on our GPS every day. Yeah. And if they hadn't spent the billions of dollars on that, nobody realized at the time when they're spending this money, investing this money, this is what's going to happen downstream. And this is the way it's always been inside. My parents I have two parents who are PhDs in science, so I got told about this since I was a very little child, that the importance and you just see more and more money being taken away from these things. And I think it's part of the thing with longevity is I think we had to switch from our mindset of this like short term, like what's going to benefit me now in the next 5 years, 10 years. I'm here 50 years in the next 50 years. Where we should be looking at this mindset of, technology is always going to benefit us, mostly in ways that most of us can't even imagine. Yeah. Again, you got your visionaries like your Ray Kurzweils, who, how their mind works, that they're able to see how all this stuff is going to come together and how accurate they are with that stuff. It's pretty amazing. No doubt. But even they're accurate on a global scale. The little bits and things and the things, again, that we just take for advantage, and people should listen to that Joe Rogan, because Neil deGrasse Tyson's so funny in his way, just talking about even dating apps and, being able to see who's within a 2-mile radius, for us to mate, as he put it. Right. Is hilarious, but it's these science, because I'm tied into these sciences, these scientists, and especially when it comes to aging. I mean, these guys are struggling just to get $5 million. And it sounds like $5 million might sound like a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, that's nothing. It is nothing when you look at the money that's being spent. Yeah. And another interesting point to think about that, we're all for, and I'm for too, putting money into curing cancer. Yeah. Putting money into curing heart disease and all these diseases. Nobody has a challenge with that. When you talk about The underlying cause, though, to all these diseases
Right.
is aging.
Right.
It's their degenerative process that are occurring. And yes, there are kids who get cancers and things like that, but for the most part,
But it's also like, what are those kids eating and what are they doing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lifestyle things to talk about.
Yeah.
But if you think about it like this, for the most part, on the scientific side of it, again, for the most part, all these major disease states, what's really the underlying cause is they happen when later in life, when the things that we associate with aging, you know, the decay and degeneration is occurring, different processes in the body are starting to break down.
Right.
For, again, this is what I was saying with aging. There's various things that go on that as they start to break down, now all of a sudden we become susceptible to heart disease. Now we become susceptible to all these different cancers. You know, all these things that are the things that we're spending now billions and billions of dollars towards. Where if you are spending that money towards aging, you're actually going downstream and solving that problem.
Yeah, solving the root cause of the problem, which is what we need to focus on.
So the root cause of aging,
of society, right?
Yeah, and the root cause of aging, for the most part, in terms of what we would define it as lay people, and is just decay and degeneration within the body. And there's different processes. You know, there's the telomere thing that I talked about. There's your mitochondria, that is how your body produces energy. So, you know, any function in your body that involves energy. Every function of your body is your mitochondria. You know, they start to decay and degenerate for various.
Right.
One of it just is over time they biologically start to decay and degenerate, which again is a process that we know we can reverse. Yeah. Okay. We need, maybe the technology's not all there now, but there's, you know, body hackers. Myself being a body hacker, I know you're a big body hacker. Yeah, you know that there's already things that we're doing, so we're in this process now. Yeah. I'm a chiropractor. You know. A lot of people associate aging, the little old man, the decay and degeneration, arthritic changes. Yeah. You know, we think that's a process of age. It's not. It's a process of time and neglect. You just see it more as people get older because they've had more time to neglect themselves in certain ways that cause that decay and degeneration.
Yeah, like it's like if you don't use your body, it just is going to wilt like anything else. But if you're using, like my dad, like I said, he's 86, right? He runs 6 miles every day and 12 miles on Saturday. Right. And he moves fine. I've never heard him complain about arthritis in any regards because he's moving his joints. He's constantly getting at it. He works out. He stretches. Right. Because he's kept using his body, and that's what's kept him alive and kept him healthy.
Absolutely. So I'll give I'll get my little chiropractic bit in here, and then I'll be done with it.
Okay, go ahead.
Because as excited as I'm about chiropractic, I'm more excited about the subject that we're talking about. Of course. Which is your joints are designed, what you said, to move. We know this very clearly. It's interesting because 20 years ago when I was in school, all the textbook taught the predominant reason you get decay and degeneration is because of your age. What can you do about that? Yeah. Not much, right? They know that's completely not true. It's not true at all. They were completely wrong about that. Your joints, and again, depending on what research you read, are designed to take you anywhere from 300 years of age to forever. And now with regenerative medicine, stem cell treatments, these types of things that can reverse some of the decay and degeneration that occurs, I mean, there really is no reason to believe that your joints aren't designed to take you forever. But here's what I was going to say that everybody should know is your joints are designed to move, and they're designed to move properly. Yeah. And when lack of motion is one thing that will cause decay and degeneration. Okay, genetically speaking, we're like our ants. We're designed like our genome really hasn't changed in 10,000 years. No. You know, so you think about our ancestors 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Yeah. How much moving did they do? A lot. A lot. They were moving all the time. Yeah. That's how we were genetically developed. Survival of the fitness. Yeah. You know, fittest. And you know, we live in a world where we sit way too much. No. So I just say to people, you know, you just think about motion like a nutrient. And we all are deficient, you need to supplement motion to. So your person like your father is a prime example. My father's the same way. He bikes to work every day. You know, he's always moving his body, gets up, swims laps. You know, he's 80 years old this year. And, you know, the guy can outmove and perform, you know, a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds. Totally. I see. And that's not an accident. It's only because of the choices that he's made throughout his life. Yeah. And improper motion, and the other thing that's important to realize is that improper motion of your joints, which a lot of people end up with because of traumas, various traumas in their life, or just improper biomechanical things that they do over time, that's like a misaligned tire, and that will cause wear and tear in your joints as well too. So, but just like I said, my 2 cents in that
Like,
decay and degeneration is
Yeah.
complete of your joints, arthritic changes.
Yeah.
What we would call arthritis. We know that's completely preventable. The same way brushing your teeth prevents tooth decay and proper tooth care.
Interesting.
So
real quick, you mentioned stem cells. How do stem cells help with longevity?
Okay. So stem cells is right now one of the most exciting technologies in longevity.
Mm-hmm.
We could have a 3-hour.
I know. Yeah. Just like real quick,
cells.
just gonna mention what they are.
So stem cells are your body. We all have stem cells in our bodies, and stem cells is your body's way. One of your body's ways of healing and regenerating. Stem cells are cells that can differentiate, meaning they can turn into, depending on what type of stem cell, but they can essentially, stem cells can turn into any type of stem cell type in your body. Mm-hmm. So your stem cell can turn into a skin cell, it can turn into a muscle cell, it can turn into a bone cell, cartilage, eyes, just name every type of stem cell. All your cells came from stem cells originally.
Right.
We have stem cells in our body. If you didn't have stem cells, you would die very quickly because your body's constantly breaking down and regenerating, and those stem cells are being utilized to regenerate. Mm-hmm. However, as we age, our stem cells age. More than that, though, as we age, our stem cells get exposed to all the stress and toxicity that we do, and that affects the functions of the stem cells as well. So stem cells as a treatment now can be utilized. People can utilize their own stem cells, so they can do a thing. They can suck your fat out, and they centrifuge it. They separate basically your stem cells from your fat cells, and then they can plug those stem cells back in concentrated doses in certain places to help that area heal and regenerate. There's also a lot of it in your bone marrow. What's very exciting with stem cells is that you can use amniotic stem cells, and amniotic stem cells come from healthy mothers who donate their placenta at childbirth. So your placenta has a layer of amniotic stem cells. They're called virgin stem cells because guess what? They haven't aged at all. They haven't been exposed to all the toxicity. Yes, they're brand new.
Right out of the box.
They're super charged to what? To heal and regenerate. Because their biological use for them is if something goes wrong with the baby, if something goes wrong with mom, they get recruited to heal and regenerate, and they're recruited as part of the generation process of the baby. But these stem cells have no genetic markers, meaning they have no immune markers to mom. Baby doesn't even have immune markers yet. So anybody can use, it's not like blood typing or anything like that. Anybody can use amniotic stem cells.
So crazy.
And like I said, they're super concentrated, and they have tons of growth factors and cytokines. And these are things that are all involved with the healing, regenerating process of the body. So, these stem cells that majority of the time used to just be thrown away. In the last 10 or 15 years, they'll ask the mother, hey, do you want to keep the cord blood stem cells? These are all things that have a lot of these stem cells. Mm-hmm. But mothers can donate them, and they can be utilized for stem cell treatments, which for people who have decay and degeneration, in the U.S., you can do joint injections, for example, are probably the most common use for them. And literally, if they are effective and nothing is a guarantee with anything, but they're highly effective. They can reverse the decay of the degeneration process. There is tons of research and there's tons of uses of them outside of just the use of joint regeneration. Autoimmune diseases, people who have strokes, they can be highly effective for people with strokes. You can do a thing that you can do stem cells, they can cross the blood-brain barrier, literally help heal and regenerate the central nervous system.
No kidding.
There's stem cell treatments all over the world. There's been stem cell treatments where they've reversed paralysis for people. So things that actually you can look it up. So there's a lot of amazing things going on right now, and they're just scratching the surface of stem cells. They're the scientists who are the leaders in the world at this. They're taking stem cells, they're reprogramming them, they're programming them to do very specific things. So it is an exciting time with what's going on.
Isn't it crazy that, for centuries, people have been looking for like the fountain of youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they've been looking for that though, but apparently it's really just been inside us, all of us, more or less the whole time.
Yeah, I think it's in our DNA.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think living forever is in our DNA. You can go back as far as you can to any kind of recorded, human history, human stories. It is something that we have always seeked out and looked for. I don't put limits on myself. Listen, there's a lot of things that we're not there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not there yet to colonize space, but we're going to. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I think this is something that we've always dreamed about. We look out in the sky and we dream about what's out there. And,
totally.
and we're already exploring it.
Mm.
But we're going to figure out how to explore it. Again, you start talking about longevity, like all of a sudden now it becomes real. Like, well, maybe 1,000, I don't want to go. I'm not one of these guys that want to go to Mars right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to go to Mars maybe 1,000, 10,000 years now when they have it nice and they control the environment and it's like going to Hawaii and it's a beautiful place to go. Yeah. Like I'm not the pioneer. Like I don't want to be the first one there. But that's on my agenda. I won't say bucket list. I hate when people use that bucket list word, right? Because I'm a longevity person.
Sure.
But I do want to go to Mars, but not right now.
I like it. I like it, man. So what are some of the ways that living roughly indefinitely could be a problem?
Uh-huh.
How could this be an issue? And what are some maybe ways that we could prevent certain people from, who are able to, or like people maybe that tend to exert more power? How do we make sure they don't overpower?
Yeah, I know what
people?
you're saying.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the future of these types, and with any, let's just call it a technology, like living.
Yeah, totally.
Super long time, ability to live forever, but again, whatever. You can be 1,000,000 years old, you still haven't lived forever. Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of like an oxymoron in itself.
That's why I was like roughly,
Yes, yeah. But let's just say
because eventually we're probably gonna get sucked in by the sun or whatever, unless we're able to
right. But we probably will
switch
expand
galaxies.
Out. Yeah. So you have I think it's really important conversations. I think it's really fun conversations to talk about these things, and you kind of have your two sides to this, which is like your doom and gloom. People, right, and then you have your like utopia people, and I think we all want the utopia, but the truth of the matter is we don't live in a utopia now. We haven't created one now, and there's problems with utopias in the ways that we think about them.
I personally don't believe in utopias, right?
And I agree with you,
but I also don't believe in the doom and gloom. I feel I like to be right in the middle, where I'm like, things are going to be shitty, but they're also going to be really good in the other side. And it's more like a ratio, I think. We should have more good than bad. Yeah. And
we should be moving towards it. Yeah. Let's have these conversations so we're aware of like the direction we're going in life. And again, I think an exciting thing is when people actually embrace the idea that I'm going to be here. Again, let's just say I can wrap my mind around I'm going to be here 200 years. Maybe that really should change your outlook on what you're doing right now. I'm going to be here 200 years, and I'm going to be healthy for 200 years. Like not only that, I'm going to be able to contribute. Yeah. I'm not going to be this 70-year-old who sits in a rocking chair and can't even contribute, even though maybe I love life and I still think life is beautiful. Like I want to contribute to the world. I want to. This is awesome. Like, not only do I get to know like my grandkids, I get to know like my great grandkids and have all the joy. Whatever's joyful for you. Yeah. I think a critical factor in this is that we're going for like a joy in our individual life, and we're going for joy as a culture. So when you talk about maybe the doom and gloom, the reason that's important to look at is that's creating a world that now I don't want to live to be 500 years old, and I don't want to, and I think science fiction does a really good job, especially with the doom and gloom stuff, of portraying that. And
have you seen our Altered Carbon?
I love Altered Carbon.
Yeah,
I have.
That's good.
I don't want it's you can see what I'm attracted to. Yeah, I like the futuristic shows.
Yeah, me too.
And everything, and so I am not. It's not something I would say I spend a lot of time with my mind on these things. That's not necessarily a subject I spend a lot of time on, but I like to watch things like Altered Carbon. I like these futuristic things. Yeah. And I like...
And
thinking about in terms of like,
yeah,
like that aspect would suck. Oh, you could see that may really like watch a world like a show like Westworld too.
Yeah, right.
Which is like, I'm like, oh, like somebody's going to create that. Like, you know, like this is like it's too much. You could see like humans creating something like that, or well, like Arctic Carbon. So I think it's great for us to be aware of it.
That's the reason I bring up the question, right?
Yeah.
Is for that reason. It's just like, let's understand what the problems could be. Because I think a lot of times when people are thinking about things, they think sometimes too much about like all the benefits. And it's like, let's also make sure we understand the
So I think the number one
Yeah.
thing with that is, I think the most common thing that I hear, and I think it's the most common thing that we should be thinking about right now, regardless of super longevity, is sustainability.
Yes.
You know, so you start talking about a sustainable population. I mean, if we just continue to, if everybody lives forever or 1,000,000 years old, and we keep on populating the planet, like
we're all going to be like stuck together, right?
I think there's a Star Trek episode. Aging myself with Star Trek right now. Like
I love Star Trek, man.
Yeah. So and there's a lot of it's very interesting in societies where populations actually do grow and live longer. There's actually direct correlations with less child's being, like there are things just biologically that happen that slow down the population growth. And that, and so there's been, that's one thing that you can look at with that. What we're doing to the planet right now, to me, to a lot of people, it's definitely somebody who wants to be here and enjoy this planet 300 years from now. I'm definitely of the opinion that we need to be doing a lot of things different to not to be destroying this planet. Like this is the only home we have right now. Right. I don't believe that will always be the case, but I have no idea how far away we are from populating other planets and things like that. My guess would be that's pretty far off. So in the meantime, there's things that we need to.
We're saying that we're at least going to be able to get started by 2030, 2040, but like really like a sustainable population there. That is probably another 2080, 2090.
Yeah. It's hard to say, and the cool thing about technology is, technology is exponential. Yeah. And as humans, we're just programmed to be linear with our thinking. Yeah. But the technology that's occurred in the last, if you look where we were 30 years ago and where we are today, honestly, if you came from 30 years ago and you dropped yourself into this world today, you wouldn't even recognize the world. And 30 years from now, it's not going to be that much of a leap. It's going to be 4 times that leap. Yeah. And 30 years from then, it's going to be 16 times that leap. And, this is how technology moves. And again, if we don't do something like, destroy ourselves in the process, and we should be thinking about those things. Again, I'm not so like, everything's going to be kumbaya and okay. There's real concerns with those types of things. And I think sustainability is the biggest one. I think what you talk about with, the interesting thing is things are getting better.
No doubt. There's no question
and
there.
I think it was just, again, it was something I was just listening to, in the last, I can't remember, 5 or 10 years, but there's been like a 50% drop in the world of poverty, like the greatest in all human history.
It's remarkable.
And this is technology. This is because, a kid in Africa has the same information that you and I do at the hands of our finger, with our smartphones and these types of things. So I think people are more aware than ever of these separations that discrepancies of people. But it's also, we actually are moving in the direction where it's getting better. Can it be a lot better? Yes. Yeah. And could it get a lot worse? Yes. And we need to be very real about those things. And again, I think our policies, again, I'm not a politician, and maybe 20 years from now, I'm going to change my career and get into this stuff because I'm passionate about it. Yeah. But by no means do I know what I'm talking about, like what it really would take to change some of those things. But I think those are things that really, we need really smart people who are really passionate about it.
A bunch of them, yeah.
Yes, who, I think, politically and with governments to come, those are things that I want to see more politicians talking about. Totally. I don't hear politicians talking about those things. Not
I don't think it's even on
not
the
not
radar.
on a not on a way that's anything but politically driven.
Uh-huh.
Of I think climate is a very important topic, but it's been so politicized now. Like it's just a hot button topic that people talk about in politics. That they're not really
because they know people
about.
want to hear about it, but it's not
Right.
like those
Yeah.
people typically aren't like really like this is something we really
it's more of like
Some
which
are.
side of the
Some
fence
there,
are
but
you
yeah,
on, which
yeah.
is what politics seems to me always seems to divert to.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. And I'd like to.
No
I think that needs to
No doubt.
change.
Yeah.
As we progress further into this world.
So with a longer life expectancy, and I don't know if I kind of brought this up a little earlier. I'm going to reiterate it a little bit. What do you think what kind of endeavors do you think people will pursue? Do you think people will, I'm sure it'll be a mixture of both, but what do you think people will more likely do maybe? Do you think they'll typically pursue one endeavor and just like get really insanely good at it? Or do you think people will be like, okay, I'm going to live probably to, maybe 300, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And 300, that's 300 years. That's maybe, you could get insanely good at 3 different skills. It's like every 100 years, you can master, 3 to 6 skills. So how will that change how people pursue career choices and things like that?
I think I love this question. Because again, I think it changes everything.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, our society right now, not the society that we'll talk about in a second, is set up, again, with the end of your life being 60, 80. I mean, and we're in this model.
Yeah.
Hey, you're this age, you go to school, you get an education, you pick a career, you have your career years, then you retire, your golden years, and you're, checking things off your bucket list, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That doesn't fit the mold anymore.
No, not at
right?
all.
It doesn't fit the mold. So like, why wouldn't you go back to school when you're 60 or 70? If you got another at least 100 years,
right?
Why wouldn't why?
Pick up a new one.
I mean, our mindset is so like, I did school, now I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you'll see both, and really based on the individual. There's people. I think like you and me, just our mindset is we're kind of like Renaissance type mindset people. Like we're interested in a bunch of different things.
Lifelong learning. I think it's about injecting that into the cultures. Like, just keep learning forever.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so much to learn. It's so much interesting. I get overwhelmed by it.
Right.
I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm learning physics right now.
I'm more excited about
art,
my life. The more I learn, the stupider I feel. Which I'm like, I totally embrace now.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I get so into like the science of like longevity and things like that, and like the more I learn, I'm like, oh my god, like I'm so dumb about this stuff.
I know nothing, and the more I learn, I'm like, I don't know that. I'm not good enough.
But
at that
that's the joy. I mean, that's a joy of life for me too, and so I think you will see things that you'll see people who are so passionate about what they do, and maybe that does last for hundreds of years for them, forever for them.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people, I did that for 20, 30 years. Now all of a sudden I'm interested in this over here, or I start, listen, I never learned a musical instrument. I want to learn a musical instrument.
Yeah. Which one would you learn?
I think I'd start with guitar.
Uh-huh.
I just love like the guitar. I'd love to play electric guitar.
Yeah.
I guess if I have 200 years, I could maybe get as good as Jimi Hendrix.
Probably. Yeah.
We'll have plenty of time to practice. And
exactly.
And these things that you think like, hey, maybe it's too late in life for me to do these things. Like, why would I take something like that up? Again, there's so many things now. It's like a world of possibility. Mm-hmm. And somebody who's like inquisitive and wants to learn things. There's new things I learn about that I'm like, okay, at some point I want to.
Yeah, I'll come back to that one. That seems really interesting, but I can't right now. I know,
and I think professionally, I mean, first of all, the world's going to change in terms of with technology. We're seeing this, and people talk about this all the time too. Mm-hmm. Of technology, just AI and computers just taking the place of so much of what we utilize human labor for now. Yeah, and big part of your is like, what does the world look like when we're not so reliant again on this of what was required before, where we needed manpower and man hours.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually like big thing I've been thinking a lot about recently is I honestly hate so much seeing people working those menial jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is just like so soul sucking.
Yes.
It just like, you don't want that job. You don't want to be doing it. You don't want to
Right.
be there. You don't want to be sitting behind the cash register
Right.
checking me out.
Right.
Like, you want to be doing something that brings you fulfillment and makes you happy, whatever that may
Right.
be. Like, I think that automation in that sense is so good. And people are like,
Mhm.
we're just going to take these jobs. Like, it should.
Mm-hmm.
But we also need to make sure that those people, we have the system set up in order to make it so those people can still live
Yeah.
a fulfilling life.
And we need to be, that's a conversation.
Yeah.
This is, again, this is one of those things this isn't like this might happen.
Yeah.
This is happening now.
Totally.
So this isn't, we're having a futuristic conversation now. We're talking about something that's already occurring.
Absolutely.
We need to be discussing, getting ahead of the wave of how we deal with that.
Exactly.
And I like to listen to people talk about this stuff. I'm not an expert on this stuff at all, but I do know it's a problem, and people need to have a purpose in life. We need to have fulfillment in life.
No doubt.
And for a long time, we have found that through works per se, but the definition of work is changing. So I don't know, like, I think we all want to be creative and, again, be productive and feel like we're contributing. Mm-hmm. So how do we move towards this new society that is set up?
Yes.
That, a lot of the things that were like manual labor jobs and whatever, and it's no disrespect. There's people who are still going to want to work with their hands and build things and do really cool things.
But they should be building the things they want to build.
Yes, it's artistic, right? Those people are like, these carpenters that they're artists.
Absolutely.
And they get great joy out of it and whatever.
Well,
I put together one or two things together and like,
over.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, so it's so exciting that we can move towards something completely different now. We're out of really the industrial age.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the we're still living in that model that we designed for the industrial age. People don't need to be working as many hours or whatever. If you love it and you're passionate, it's how you're defining work and the job and again, there's so many things that I agree with you that are just soul sucking for people, and
totally.
Behind it, whether it's behind a cubicle, in front of a computer all day, and just they're not being fulfilled.
Totally, because living forever and doing like a job like that, why?
Yeah,
but living forever and getting to do what you love every day,
right?
Like that.
So I think a critical component of living forever is connection.
Yes, meaningful relationships. That's another big part. Is if you're living alone too and living forever, like that's again a miserable life. You want those meaningful relationships.
We're a species of connection.
Absolutely.
And I actually think, and there's good research that shows that, is we've really moved away. We're a collaborative species.
Mm-hmm.
Humans didn't grow and develop as like, hey, I go out and do my own thing. It's we collaborate and we work together as a species, and no other species that we're aware of has done that any better than we're doing that. But people, we innately need connection, and I think it's tragic that so many people are in a lot of ways losing connection. Social media is very, this computer social media world that we're living in. It's so transforming to the world that we're living in. And you hear like the bad stuff, but it also creates a new avenue of connection. It's not going away. So the conversation of this is just all bad is ridiculous.
Totally. Because I've met my two best friends that I have right now.
Right.
Both of them I met because of Facebook. If it wasn't for Facebook, I probably wouldn't be friends with them right now. Right. And that led to so much else. Like even me finding Cahoots and connecting with people here, it's actually because of Cahoots where we're recording right now is the reason I met them as well, because I was in the Facebook group that I met them through their Facebook group. And it's about, using the technology better and not just using it. Because that's the thing. It's like this, like you're saying, this is all so new that it's just been thrown at us, and we're trying to figure out how to use it, and there's no education around it because it's definitely not being taught in schools right now because it's so new, and the school's not really adopting social media 101, how
Yes.
to make friends through social media, right? Or, how to connect.
Yeah. And and it's just something that happened,
Yeah.
and nobody predicted it or
Yeah.
anything, and we're figuring it out. I mean, it's real. I'll tell you, like, I have utilized, Facebook, and basically for me it was like, oh, this was like an avenue for me to put pictures of my kids up and and stay connected with people. I'm super excited right now because I'm building like a group on Facebook. I'm very like have somebody coaching me and showing me how to do this, but it's super exciting for me because it's a whole world I didn't see that was out there with this, which is going to be related around like longevity and a community of people who are interested in that, and I don't even know how it's all going to organically develop. But I see now, like, wow, what a tool that I can go out there, something I'm super passionate about, and rather than just sit, you and I might have this conversation one-on-one, but now we're having this on a podcast.
Yeah.
Potentially millions and millions of people can listen to this stuff.
Right.
I can start the things that I love to sit down and educate and empower people on and have these conversations with one-on-one. I can start doing this in a community with thousands of people who are like-minded, or maybe just interested in it and haven't, they've thought about this stuff a little bit, and we can all start sharing and contributing. And honestly, if you asked me 6 months ago, I was completely blind to like that. So it's so exciting for me to again, just getting this started with this, of the potential of what you can do with that. And again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with technology is, the potential, technology is us. There is no technology out there that, the way I look at technology is it's just an aspect. People talk about the AI thing and, oh, it's scary. And again, they should be having conversations about AI, and I guess potentially things going wrong with AI.
Yeah.
I just don't believe it will ever play. I mean, I just think we're going to more and more, it's what's happening now, where we're just integrating when we've always just integrated with all the technology that we develop.
Totally.
And AI, which is, we already have AI, it's just going to get better and better, again, exponentially. We're just going to integrate with it. We've integrated with our phones already. And it just will happen, and it will happen organically. And it will just advance us.
Merging with AI or merging with the computers might be the next step in longevity as well, because that's going to allow, if we can immediately access anything in the internet, that can allow us to solve all these problems almost immediately.
Right.
I can be like, oh, there's my solution. I don't have to go and look up and search through 100 articles. I just instantly know it because I'm connected.
Listen, I've been a few more trips around the sun than you, right? So when I was in college, we had to go to a thing called the library and pull out microdiscs and look up things.
Oh no,
maybe you didn't have to do that.
I didn't have to do that.
I know my kids will never have that world, And my parents did something even worse that they had to do, and I don't even know what they had to do, right?
Actually, they can't get the number.
But right here I can look up a million times more information, because first of all, we know a million times more than we did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
At my fingertips at any time. So yes, there almost certainly, and there's going to be microchips that we have in our system that we can just access that information right away. Again, we're a species that have always, information is power, not just power like I can conquer you. It can be used in that way.
Yeah.
But information is our personal power, and it's our power as a species. And the more we can do that, the more we can access that. We're just going to use AI like we use it now to be able to figure out things that maybe our brain can't, but we're just going to be integrating with that, the brains of computer. Again, to me, it's us. Everything we're creating is us already. That none of that stuff comes magically out of anywhere but from our own innovation and our own creation. So I'll go back to the longevity of I think it's in our DNA to really want to live forever, because this is something that we've always seeked out. And there's there's a guy called Aubrey de Grey, and he's
Yeah, I know.
Aubrey. So
Crazy beard.
yes, Aubrey. I call
him.
him the wizard. I know Aubrey as well. I call him the wizard of longevity. Right? He's got this crazy beard.
Yeah.
Look up a picture of Aubrey de Grey if you're listening. You'll know what we're talking about. He had that beard, by the way, like before it was cool.
Yeah, I know, right?
But he talks about longevity in terms of like escape velocity, right? Like I'm 47 now. Maybe the technology right now is telling us I could live to be very healthy to 120, and that's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? When I'm 80 years old, that escape velocity is going to be 150.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I'm 100 years old, and now it's 200 years old. And you just go and the thing is, we're increasing that ability, our technology, our biological technology to live longer and longer. That now I'm 200, and now we can live to be 500. So it's just are we like going to maintain this escape velocity of super longevity? And again, there's no scientific biological reason that we can't. It's just a question of
how do we find this
solving these problems.
That's amazing.
As a species, what do? We solve problems, and we figure out things, and we advance.
We do, man. I love it. So last question. Where can people find you online and in person, and what challenges are you facing, and how can people help you solve those challenges?
Okay. Well, my name is Dr. Steve Ruby. My last name is a unique one, which is spelled Hruby. So it's Ruby with an H behind of it, or in front of it. So you can look me up on Facebook is a good way. I have a business, Kaizen Medical Group. We're here. We're in Phoenix right now. My business is in Scottsdale, so it's part of the Phoenix general area. That's Kaizen, Kaizen Medical Group. So we're an integrated medical clinic. We have medical, do a lot of physical medicine. I'm a chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture, massage therapy. We do a lot of vitamin minerals. We do regenerative therapies. So amniotic stem cell therapies that we were talking about.
I'm going to get that at some point for sure.
Yeah. I will. Maybe I'll come back and we'll just have a conversation about that stuff.
I'd love to.
I love to talk about that stuff. My office number is 480-941-2147. So you can contact me there. Please, you can reach out to me on Facebook. I am starting. I literally just started this page that's going to be my longevity group. So if you're interested in that, just reach out to me. I'll add you to the group, and you can be one of the first members. And I'm going to be having videos on there and doing body hacks and different things that I do. I will say you got to take really good care of yourself if you're going to enjoy all the technologies that are coming.
No doubt.
I'm a realist, and right now, there's not just some pill you can take that's going to fix everything, and with like regenerative medicine and really anything, the better you take care of yourself,
absolutely,
the better you're going to be able to enjoy the fruits of what's coming now and in the future.
All about those actions and decisions.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, man. Thanks
Absolutely,
for taking the time.
It's been fun.
Great conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
Anytime. Thank you.